any one of the features. We're going to touch on all of them or most of them with Zoom today and maybe get you excited about doing labs, science. So let's talk about options. And here's where we're talking about different options for our students. And notice I made my cursor a little bigger. It's one of the things you can do in your tools for your computer. You can make your cursor a little larger, and that way your students have the ability to see things. I can actually annotate here, and we'll talk about that a little later. I can draw on my screen and add different features and even highlight with annotation. And that's one of the great things about Zoom, another thing that you can do with documents that you have presented here. Now, talking specifically about lab options, I know one of the things that you guys hear a lot is these kids can't sit in front of a computer for hours on a day. But I'm here to tell you, I've watched kids, my kids, sit for 6 or more hours in front of a computer screen playing a video game. Well, part of the trick of that is they're not changing actual physical locations, but mentally they're changing places. They're going to different places within that virtual reality. And today, later on in our training, we're going to do that. You are going to physically go into a breakout room, just like they do in a video game. And a lot of that's going to help them, especially if you have maybe an hour-long session. And with your younger students, your labs can be 15 minutes of talking, and then you'll send them into these breakout rooms that we're going to discuss later, where they change their view. They're going to be with maybe another person or 3 people or 4 people, not the entire classroom or the main room is what it's called that you and I are in right now. They're going to change positions. Then you as the instructor or the host can bring them back out of that breakout room, and then you can talk as a big group about what you experienced. Then you can do something else, lead them in another direction, put them back into a different breakout room. It could be with the same individuals, or you can change it up and put them with a different group. So it's kind of mini labs. Your smaller children, your younger children rather, will respond better to, say, your middle school or maybe even your 5th graders, will do better with shorter time frames, changing their virtual positioning. Now, your older students can sit a little longer. They don't need the shorter labs or the shorter changing of venues. And those labs you can actually do longer. We're going to share a video today to show you how we can share videos and they can watch videos. So in those circumstances, either you can do a lab and demonstrate it through like I'm doing with you now, talking to you and you can see me, or you can do a video lab, much like I'm showing you a video tutorial about breakout rooms. Now, say you don't want to do a demo, say that you want them to do the lab, but they don't have things at their home that they can use, but you really want them to do that. Now, one of the options I've seen done is that these materials can be divided up just like you would in a regular lab situation, but packaged, and you can have them in advance pick up those materials or those materials delivered. Depending upon the material, they can be mailed, or if you know where that student lives, bus transit, different mechanisms. You have to be creative here. You can have those materials transported and then all of you meet at a certain time. Now, creatively speaking, it's a lot of more work, but whenever we do labs, ladies and gentlemen, isn't it more work anyway? We're always setting up a lab, we're dividing out those contents, we're weighing them out for them, we're putting them out in their lab stations, whatever that may be, we organize those labs for them. Now, the demo lab that I sent you, the document, the lab that I have here as an example is something that students can use from anywhere. They're using household items, and because they would be in groups, they don't have to show those household items. It's just asking them to creatively think of things that are around them that can be relatable. And they're in their breakout rooms. And so those are activities that they can do that I don't have to demonstrate. And so those kinds of labs are very nice as well. So when we're talking about science lab, just to reiterate and to sum up, these labs are just like labs that we don't do virtually. They're in your control. They're as creative as you want them to be. If one just absolutely tickles your fancy, but they need materials, there are ways that you can get your students materials and then virtually work with them with these labs. You can meet in breakout rooms. Now, these breakout rooms, you'll visit these rooms as the host and the teacher, just like you would lab tables. You'll go to their breakout room, come out, go to another breakout room, come out, just like you would from lab to lab. You can also broadcast full announcements to your groups, just like you would if you make a loud announcement in the entire lab room. So there are a lot of options here. I don't want to overwhelm you. We want to take it slowly. So today we're going to work with the idea of a basic lab or a basic demonstration. But you can expand as you get to know the program and working with your individual students. Things are limitless if we make them limitless, and they're exciting if we make them exciting. I've been excited about sharing this day with you and about this training. So I'm going to pull away from that screen share. And first, we're going to keep kind of things basic. So let's talk about, I'm going to share with you our Zoom control options. I want to introduce you slowly to these options. Some of you are already familiar with them, and I apologize if this is a repeat of things, but some people aren't as familiar. So let's start with a little bit of basics. How we're viewing people. Right now, you are probably viewing me in the gallery view. And what that means is that all of your students and how they're going to view you and everybody else are going to be all in these little tiny squares about the same exact size. Now, bigger groups, I'm going to scroll down here, that are 100 or more, see these small arrows here? See where my cursor is going? You can click side to view more people. And even where I'm screen sharing, you're probably along the side here. You can find your arrow, and I want you to be interactive, play around, scroll up and down and look at the different participants that are there. Play with your screen as I'm going through talking about participants. Now, the person speaking is going to be in yellow and highlighted and usually presented first. However, there is a speaker view. Now, when you toggle up here, see where it says speaker view here? You can click up at the top and click speaker view, and that will demonstrate this view. This means that whoever's talking or making the most noise, if there's a bunch of dogs barking in the background, that person is going to take over the speaker view. And that's when mute is very important. Your speaker view is going to be the person who is in control of the meeting at the time doing their vocalization, and you'll have this upper row here tab of participants. In this particular picture, there's only 2 participants in that meeting, and therefore, if there were more, there'd be more pictures here and a little like viewing tab. So here's your 2 options, and you can tab back and forth by clicking up here on the right hand side, speaker view, gallery view, speaker view. Now, that's the basics we're going to do today. However, it can be a little more exciting and a little more in-depth with this speaker view. You can do a side-by-side view. You can do main screen view, field view. I have a link, and I will ask Nikki or Nicholas to send you these extra 2 links for the participants. And it goes into a little more detail, tutorials of these views, but for today, that's a good start. So we have more options for our screen viewing. So now you see me sharing. So let's talk about screen sharing. At the bottom of your screen, across the bottom, you see this tab that states screen share. Now, most times, only the host has the option to screen share. And I believe that is how I have it set now. Now you can change that. This little house top here next beside of the screen share, if you click on that, now if these icons at the bottom disappear, just run your cursor over the bottom of your screen and they'll pop up. If you're having difficulty, just let me know. I want you to be able to see these things. This little house top here, when you click on it, you have some advanced sharing options. Multiple participants can share simultaneously, or one participant can share at a time. I advise us to just be one at a time. I have a chat here. I do not see the house top. That is probably because you are not a host or a co-host. When you design your own meetings and you're made co-host, you'll probably see. Now later on when we're doing the other icons and we talk about the house top, right now you can probably look next to your stop video or start video, because most of you have your video stopped. There's a house top. There's also a house top next to the mute. We're going to talk about those in a minute. So thank you for asking that question very much. I appreciate those. We're going to talk about the chat in a minute, and I appreciate those chats coming in. When you see this, this is for when you're playing. I encourage you to play. When I was catapulted into the virtual setting to meet with my students, and I had 60 to 130 students and all college level, and that can be a bit intimidating, but to be quite honest, high school and elementary can be equally as intimidating. I played. I had family members, my kids. Before any meeting, I played. Before I did breakout rooms with my students, I asked family members to join a Zoom meeting with me as a host, and I played with those breakout rooms. I encourage you to play. And isn't that what we do when we learn? And even as teachers, we continue and we teach by letting them do labs, by letting them play, if you will, to learn. Math, it's practice problems. So I have never, I'll be honest with you, done the multiple participants and simultaneous sharing. For me, it wasn't necessary because I have students and I'm the teacher, so it's not something I've built into any of my labs. Not saying that I won't someday, and I will probably play with it in advanced, but as of now, and I think especially with the younger children, unless you're doing projects and they're sharing their projects online, I don't know that that would be something you needed to do, but know that that's an option. Now, when you screen share, this is preparing you for when you do. We won't be doing that today. If we ever meet back again, or you want me to participate in one of your Zoom practices, I'll be happy to do that. I love teaching just like you guys do. When you first click on the share screen, that's not the house top. You're actually clicking on share screen. This is what you're going to see. You can share anything on your desktop that you have pulled up. Anything. Now, if you're using multiple screens, you're going to have screen 1, screen 2. If you have 3 screens is an option. You'll have to pick which screen you want to choose. But most of the time, we're just dealing with one screen. I do use 2 screens, so I have to be careful where I have it pulled up and that I pick the correct screen so that my participants can see it. This whiteboard is kind of cool. It's not actually a screen share of something you've got pulled up, but it enables you to annotate, to write text, to do math problems, whatever you want to do on that whiteboard. It enables you to draw and do things. So you can share a whiteboard with your students. This iPhone or iPad, when you click that, it'll talk you and walk you through how to share things that are on your iPad. Say you want to draw things out or you want to share something on your iPad or iPhone. It's a pretty cool thing. We won't go through these advanced options. The links, because we're time constrained, the links that I have down at the bottom are tutorials that go into a little more detail with these. And again, you can YouTube anything, tutorials. These are just 2 that I found that are pretty nice that go into a little more detail with these. If you'll notice, when I have 4 reminders, which I certainly wouldn't want to share in a class, an inbox for my email. I have closed out my email so I didn't have it up and confusing things. So if you don't want to see that, close out anything that you don't want to have confusing to share. Password and usernames, digital trends, and working notebook. Maybe I want to share that. So you'll click on that and it'll highlight it. But let me give you a little tip, something I didn't, it took me a minute to realize that when I thought I clicked on it, it automatically shared it. It doesn't. To save you some time and waiting around and figure it out, you have to, once you highlight what you want to share, you have to click the share button. Once you click that share button, it is shared with your participants just like you guys are viewing this document now with your students. And as you notice, while I'm sharing, you'll get a little alert at the very top of your screen. Here's at the top of the screen what you will see. And sometimes these icons here, the join audio, stop video, those will disappear and all you'll have left is the green tab and the stop share. But you can run your cursor over it and it will make those drop back down. So don't panic if they disappear. Just ride your cursor over it and those will drop back down. But the green bar and the stop share will always appear. Now, when someone chats you while you're screen sharing, you'll have a little alert that'll come up here over the more buttons, and it will alert you that you have a chat. That remote control, this icon here, it can give someone else control over what you have shared. So they can scroll up and down or even annotate what you're doing, run the cursor over it. They have remote control, but if you give them control, they'll have to give it back to you. You can also give all the participants control, which may wreak havoc with your students, so that might not be something you want to do. Again, I encourage playing. That more option gives you options of using some of the other icons that are at the bottom. And so that's an option I encourage to play. This makes you look familiar. When I want to stop share, I click on the stop share, which is what I'm going to do right now, because we're getting ready to get more involved. Before we leave that document, we're going to talk about the mute and the start video. So we're going to stop share here. Now, before I share the interactive cell, just to give you an idea of how that might work in this demo lab, you see over here on your left side, it's what I showed you in the picture, you have the mute button. There's a little house top there. Now, click on that little house top and you should see some different options. And these options I've actually played with myself. If my speakers aren't working, I'll give you an example, and my students aren't hearing me, even though I'm not on mute, there's a test speaker and microphone option. You can actually test your microphone there. Please don't do it now. You can test that and it'll kind of feel out which speakers you're using. It'll go through different speaker options and help troubleshoot for you why it's not working. It's a great feature. And I tell you some of the pitfall that I had. I was using multiple screens. I had tested my microphone. My students still couldn't hear me. I was doing everything correctly. But the problem was I did not have my volume turned up on my second screen. And I was being displayed on my second screen. And all I needed to do was turn up my volume on my TV. So those things kind of take practice and just toggling and fiddling. Or mute, I'm going to mute myself, but a neat little trick is sometimes when you're muting, you can press the space bar and it will unmute you momentarily. So I'm going to mute. Now I'm pressing the space bar and it's allowing me to speak, but I know I'm not going to speak for long. And as soon as I finish, I want to unmute. And it unmuted me, but I'm temporarily unmuted here. It's just a quick way to unmute if I want to interject. Okay, so now to the stop video. You'll notice that it has another house top over here. This is a really fun feature. If you click on that house, please play with your, and it'll say, I can choose a filter. I can choose a virtual background. Please don't go in. I'm going to go ahead in. I want you to play with this later when you go into your Zoom, but I'm going to play for you and show you different effects that I can do. When I choose my virtual background, I can go in there. Now, I tell you what, just go ahead and click that. Click choose virtual background. You can't see what's pulled up and I can't see what's pulled up in front of you, but what you should see is a big box that has your face in it. Right? And then at the bottom, you'll see virtual backgrounds and video filters. It's two options. And then on the right, there's a little plus sign. And that little plus sign allows you to add images for a virtual background. I have already saved and added images. And you can see I can change my background. Here I have the Muppets. I have for my older students, here's Star Wars. I have for Halloween. I have some different things here. Now, video filters works a little differently. Video filters are kind of fun. The filters are kind of like Snappy Chat or those little things there, Instagram. I can add filters that move with me. Let me take down my virtual background and you can see this filter here, just as a little funsy. I can add a bear face. I can add sunglasses, and these filters move with you as you go. I think this one might be a little rude if you're in the middle of a presentation to filter the Z's, but it's just something fun if you want to have a nice time with your students. You want to add, or maybe there's a theme and you want to save maybe the periodic chart behind you. Maybe you want to be one of those cool teachers that have something you want them to learn behind you. You can save anything and put it right back there, which is kind of nice. Now I'm going to X out of here. Please just X right out of there. Those are options that you can play with for your video. When I stop my video, you guys have already figured that out. You see the name presented there, or your picture, whatever you may have there. Now, we're going to screen share. I'm going to screen share that plant model, which is a web page. You have been given a document in advance. Okay, and that document was the Cells Alive Plant Shell Worksheet. But I have, let's see, let me find my website here. Zoom tips on breakout room, post attendee. There's Microsoft Teams. I actually do not see it there. Oh, right here, it's the interactive cell model. So let me go back to here. So interactive cell model. So I'm going to share that. Sometimes you'll have so many things pulled up. Oh, let me take off my, after I share, I'll keep my Z's up there. You can't, it's difficult to manipulate your filters while you are screen sharing. Now your students would have the cell model pulled up. And they're going to write down things as you instruct them in section A, section B. And you'll notice as I drag my cursor over, it highlights the organelle. My cell document, the worksheet that my students have been given, match my interactive Cells Alive plant cell. And therefore, as they are looking at their cell, and I can even have my cell document here and say, these are your chloroplasts. Remember in lecture, we talked about what their function is, and I want you to write that next to that because their exam is going to deal with you also not just knowing the cell organelle and its function. I want you to be able to identify it. And this document is going to help you be able to identify that and walk through them, the identity in an interactive lab. All right, I'm going to take off my Z's and put no filter here so that that's a little less distracting. Okay, so now we have discussed screen share. Let's go back to our control options and look across the bottom. Now, security is an option for me, and most of you probably don't have the security, but it enables me to toggle around a little bit about what I'm allowing in and out and what I want to be done. And you can play with that a little on your own too when you become the host. Participants. So for participants, go ahead and click on the participants, just straight on there, like where my arrows, just click on it. That'll bring up a board that has all of the participants within our Zoom meeting. Now here, you can not only see who's participating, but you can also, if you're the host, kind of manipulate things. I can ask them to mute their mic. I can make them co-host by, there's a little more options over there, and you can make them a co-host. You can make them a host. But when you make someone a host, for you to become the host again, they'll have to assign you the host status. Now, a host can do a little more than a co-host as far as manipulating the meeting, and a co-host can do more than participants. Breakout rooms, the host can divide it, co-host cannot, but a co-host doesn't get divided into breakout rooms. They can stay in the main room, and they can, I think some, depending on your Zoom setup, can even visit breakout rooms. It just depends upon the setup. So to bring your participants back down, just click on it again, and that will, Kim raised her hand. Nice. I like how you're practicing with it. Please play. Do you have a question, Kim? Or you just playing? I like your raised hand. See how it's there?
I was just playing.
Oh, perfect. I want you to play. That's part of this. This is why we didn't do a webinar. I love it. Continue, because your students are going to need to know how to do that. But again, we're going to talk about the chat next. Click on that chat icon. with me, just click on it, and you're going to see the chat view. And we can chat amongst each other. You can send me chats and I can chat back. You can minimize that chat. And when you minimize it, you can move it around. Now, sometimes you can get a little carried away and you will make the whole entire Zoom smaller. Don't freak out. Here's are y'all chatting just to play around? Let me make sure. Hi, everyone. Wonderful. If you minimize the whole thing, just run your arrow over the small box. There's a small box with an arrow that will expand that back out. If you completely lose it, don't panic. At the bottom of your screen, there will be at the Windows part, there's a little Zoom camera. It's white with a little blue background. Click on that and choose the Zoom that has the pictures on it, and that'll bring you back up. Never panic. You can't break Zoom, okay? You cannot break Zoom. So if you'll notice in your chat, let's go a little deeper. Down at the bottom, it has to everyone. There's a little upside down house top, and you can actually send messages privately. I will have students who are a little shy, who want to ask a question to me privately. They'll click that little drop down box and I'll be listed there, and they will send me a private question. Now, most of the times they're really good questions. So I will ask them privately back. Make sure it's privately. I will pick them as a choice and send a message privately to them and say, hey, this is a really great question, and I'll answer it. May I pose your question to the entire group and anonymously, not mention your name? And they've always said, yes, just please don't mention my name. And then I will say, I've just had a really great question on my private chat. This was the question and this is the answer. And it's a great feature. So you can private message everyone. It doesn't have to be everyone to the group. Over to the right, there are more options, the 3 dots. You can, again, do things publicly with your chat or privately here, host only. It gives you a few more options there. Sometimes, depending on your Zoom options, again, there are different packages for Zoom. You can even attach pictures here and send pictures to people, which is kind of cool. So if you want to take that back down, what you do is you can click chat again here, and it'll just pull it back down into that tab, kind of like you did the participants. It gets rid of the box altogether. Okay, so we've done screen share. Now record. That's what's happening now. Our session is being recorded, and it's really great because people who aren't able to attend, maybe you have a child who is ill that day, but they really wanted to see the lab, you can record this lab. Again, depending upon your Zoom features, it depends on after the finish where you're going to send the recording. We'll talk about that in a minute. This record feature is great. You can, when you're setting up your Zoom meeting, you can set it to automatically record as soon as people get on there. I've done that and learned that sometimes people come in early and it starts recording as soon as they get in, and I'm not there yet, which is kind of fun to listen to those conversations, but definitely not necessary. Now what I do is I wait until everyone arrives in the meeting and we've done our small talk, and then I click record. I can also pause that record at any time and restart it. And you'll see when you play with your recording, there's a pause and a toggle up here on the left that you can toy with. So you can only record portions that you need, that you feel are important, or you can record the whole entire thing. The recorded session does not download until you end your meeting. At the end of your meeting, depending upon your Zoom package, it'll give you the option of recording to a Zoom cloud or being downloaded to your downloads. And sometimes it'll even give you an option of where you want it downloaded. Clouds can sometimes be limited due to your package. So most times I download to my computer. And you can have options of where you want to put these recordings. Sometimes you can put them on YouTube. You can put them on, we have Canvas here, so I download them to Canvas, or we have Panopto. I download those videos to Panopto so our students can access them there. And it's different places you can send them because now it's on your computer. You can do with that recording whatever you choose. So that's the record button. Closed caption is an option depending on the Zoom package, and it's a really nice feature. We're not going to go detail about that today. Breakout rooms we're going to do in a moment. Reactions. So let's look at these reactions. Some of you have already looked at those. If you click on the reactions button, I'm going to see there my reaction is a heart. If someone's saying something wonderful and you want to applaud them, I can send an applause. And your Zoom packages are different. Our Zoom packages are pretty good. I can even, if something's funny and I'm on mute and I want to laugh, I can laugh. Again, you guys are playing around. I love that. Reactions is a big thumbs up, or it's a party. I may have a few extra than other people. And again, Zoom will update, and sometimes the packages will change just because of the update. Kind of a neat feature. You don't have to say anything. You can give your opinion or your applause or your support with just using those reactions. I have a more feature, and those are also some features that you can use that we're not going to detail. They're a little more than what we want to go into today. They're a little more advanced. Okay, so we're going to talk about breakout rooms. I am going to screen share. Most people have not done breakout rooms. And when we're doing labs and you want them, like today, I have a lab where I want students to work together. Because it's kind of a lengthy lab, I want them to change their virtual perspective so that it doesn't feel so long. It makes it a little more exciting for them. And I'm going to let you go into breakout rooms. But before we do that, I want you to be educated about what a breakout room is. This is going to also show you how it looks for your students to have a video shown through the video screen share. I have a video pulled up. Now, when I share screen, before I do that, I'm going to go back to Zoom control options. You'll notice here on this screen, when I pull this up for my video, I have share computer sound down here. Do you see that box? For the students to hear your video, you must click this share computer sound, because without that click, they're just getting this one speaker. But they need to get my computer speaker when I'm sharing a video. So make note that that must be checked. Optimize screen sharing for video clip. You don't necessarily have to do that, but from what I've been reading, sometimes it's best to do that because different computers download things differently. And if it's a downloading thing, not just a sharing, that might be something for you. But today I really don't have to do that. You should be able to hear it because I'm not downloading. I've already got it downloaded. I'm just simply sharing what I'm seeing on my screen. So those are two kind of hidden features that you might not see right away. So let's screen share that video. It's about 15 minutes. Here we go. We'll do it quickly. Oh, I stopped it. Pardon me. Oh, sorry.
No one has any sound, Amanda.
Okay, hold on, I'll stop it. Okay, let me see what's going on here. Let me stop sharing and make sure that I have clicked my computer square, just like I told you guys to do, but I must not have done it. So let me share that again. I'm going to click that back just a little bit.
It's set up kind of like a classroom where you have one instructor and a bunch of students in the same lecture hall, and everybody can see and hear everybody else. What breakout rooms will do is split your meeting up into smaller sub-meetings or rooms where people within each breakout room can only see and hear other people in that breakout room. They cannot see or hear people in the other breakout rooms. So conceptually, you can think of this as somewhat similar to a classroom where you have students seated around tables where they're talking and working together. The major difference being that obviously in a classroom, you can still look across the room or hear people talking at other tables if they're talking too loudly. Whereas in Zoom, there's a complete wall between these rooms. The people over here cannot talk to the people over here. And as the instructor, well, you will initially be left by yourself back in the main meeting room. You can hop between these breakout rooms at will. So you can jump into any of them, similar to how you would physically walk around a classroom and check on what students are doing. And when you're in that meeting room, you can talk to and see everybody else just like you would in a normal Zoom meeting. Again, the major difference is that when you are in each individual breakout room, you cannot see and hear what the students are doing in the other breakout rooms. So that's a big difference between that and a classroom, where when you're walking around, you would be able to keep an eye on what your other students are doing. Another important difference here is that regular meeting participants cannot move between rooms on their own. So if you were doing group work and, for example, having students shuffle between tables and rearrange their groups, that would be easy to do in a real classroom. It's not as easy to do in Zoom. You either need to make these students co-hosts if you trust them with that authority so they can move around on their own, or you will need to move them around yourself as the host. So while this is a great feature to enable smaller group discussion and work, especially in larger classes, you do need to make sure you're going to have some form of accountability. I've heard a lot from professors, especially teaching very large classes, where they set up breakout rooms, and then when they hop between them, the students aren't doing anything. It might just be a small group of 2 or 3 students who all have their cameras off and aren't talking to each other. So you should make sure you either have some sort of deliverable, so something the students are going to have to turn in or present when the breakout room session is over, or make it very clear that yourself or other co-hosts like the TAs are going to be hopping into the breakout rooms to check on them and see what they're doing. Otherwise, you risk the students just sitting there and not actually talking to each other. All right, that's enough of a conceptual overview. Let's talk about how you're actually going to do this in Zoom. So to set up the breakout rooms, you're going to click the Breakout Rooms button at the bottom of your screen. Zoom will then prompt you as to whether you want to set up the rooms automatically, meaning Zoom will randomly assign people to the rooms, or manually, meaning you will pick who goes in which room. So for small classes, or if you have certain groups of students you know what you want to work together, you'll want to do that manually. For a very large lecture class, for example, with hundreds of students, you're almost definitely going to want to pick automatically because it would take you forever to click and drag and assign individual students to each room. One other caveat, there is an option to pre-assign students to breakout rooms if you know who's going to join the meeting in advance. I'm not going to cover instructions for that in this video, but I will link to Zoom's help page about it in the description. So in this case, I'm going to say I want to assign my 4 participants into 2 breakout rooms. I'm going to do it manually. I'm going to hit the Create Rooms button. I will then get this pop-up window where I have 2 breakout rooms created. Nobody is in them yet. I can click the Assign button. See, I'm going to put Abby and Cookie Monster in this first room, and Elmo and Lego Guy in the second room. You can move people around then by hovering over their names and either moving them to another room or exchanging them with somebody in another room. Finally, there are some options down here at the bottom. For example, you can select to move all participants into the breakout rooms automatically. If you don't do that, then the participants will get a prompt asking them if they would like to join the room, and they can choose to remain in the main meeting room. You can allow them to return back to the main meeting room, or you can disable that option. You can set the breakout rooms to close automatically after a certain time period, and you can give everybody a heads up when you are about to close the breakout rooms. I definitely recommend this feature. Otherwise, you can tend to cut people off mid-sentence when you close the rooms and bring people back to the main meeting.
Just as a side note, I have found that if I don't click this move all participants into breakout rooms automatically, some people aren't familiar with Zoom, and they'll get that request to go into the break room and they don't really see it. And they're like, I'm not in the breakout room and everybody else is. So if you don't want your students to be kind of making excuses why they're not moving in there, you can click that, or especially your younger students. And as soon as you click open all rooms, they automatically go. They don't get that pop-up asking if they want to.
So here I'm going to select move all participants into breakout rooms automatically, just since I am using toys and I would have to go around and click on all the computers to join the rooms otherwise, but you don't necessarily need to do that. Then I'm going to hit the open all rooms button, and we'll see that will send everybody off into the breakout rooms.
There's a war on coal.
Oh,
It's
sorry,
against
there's
our
a
jobs
commercial
and our way of life.
Amy McGrath is funded by liberals like Nancy Pelosi.
So it took a second for it to do it there, but now I am left all by myself in the main meeting room. Everybody else is off in their breakout rooms, so I can click on the breakout rooms button, see a list of who is in which room, and if I want to join one, I can click the join button next to that room. So let's do that. I'm going to join Abby and Cookie Monster in breakout room 1. I'm going to click join breakout room 1. It takes a second. I get a little pop-up that I am now in a breakout room, and you will see that I can now only see Abby and Cookie Monster. So you have to be careful here, because not only can I no longer see Elmo and Lego Guy, they cannot see or hear me, and this is important, a mistake a lot of people make. Each breakout room has its own chat. So this is a little misleading, because when you open the chat, it still says everyone down here, but that really means everyone in this breakout room. So if I type breakout rooms will end in 5 minutes, that actually isn't going to go to people in the other breakout rooms. And I've also lost the previous chat history, so you don't see the previous main chat when you go into the breakout room. So this can make communication with the rest of the class a little difficult. Again, if you were in a real classroom, you could just walk around or raise your voice and everybody could hear you. So you can't do that using the chat feature. If you want to do that, you have to go back to breakout rooms and click broadcast message to all. So you can type a message here. For example, we will end breakout rooms in 5 minutes. When you type broadcast, that goes to everyone, but it does not show up in the chat. It shows up as a little pop-up message at the top of the screen, and it's not there for very long. So in my experience, this can be easy to miss. So I'm going to briefly show a screenshot of that message on what it looks like from Elmo's computer. And you can see Elmo only got this tiny little message up at the top of the screen, and I didn't time it, but it seems like it's only there for 5 or 10 seconds or so. So it doesn't show up as a permanent message in the chat. It's definitely easy to miss. So communication with people in the other breakout rooms can be a bit of a challenge when you are hopping between the rooms. Now, you can also have this communication problem in the other direction. What if your students need to get your attention? And again, in a real classroom, if you were walking around and they're working in groups, they could just raise their hand. You can see the entire room. That's not an issue. And you might ask, oh, why don't we just use Zoom's nonverbal feedback feature, if you're familiar with that, just like I would in a regular Zoom meeting with no breakout rooms. And the problem there is the participants window. When you're in breakout rooms, it only shows the participants in this breakout room. So participants do have a raise hand button here that normally they could use to get your attention in a class. But if somebody else in another breakout room raises their hand, you're not going to see it in your participants list. So your students have an option at the bottom of their screen called Ask for Help, and then it will give them an option to invite the host to their breakout room. So I'm going to go click that on Elmo's computer, and you will see what it looks like on my screen. So Elmo has just clicked the Invite Host button, and I get this little pop-up window asking me if I would like to join Elmo's breakout room. I can either select to join the room now or do it later. And in my experience, that can be nice if you don't have a lot of breakout rooms and a lot of students asking for help, but it can get really annoying if a lot of people are doing it all at once, because you will keep getting those little pop-up windows, and to the best of my knowledge, there's no way to block them. So if you are in the middle of a conversation with someone and you want to hold off on the other room for 5 minutes, you would need to go down to that broadcast message to all and say something like, I'm helping the people in room 1 now. Please stop sending requests for help. I'll be there in a couple of minutes. Otherwise, your students can just continually spam you with those little pop-up windows, and that can get pretty irritating. So let's say that I'm done helping Abby and Cookie Monster, and I am ready to go join that other breakout room now. I would click Breakout Rooms at the bottom, select Join Breakout Room 2. And again, there's going to be a bit of a lag when it does that, and Zoom does this weird thing where it resizes your window, so you'll need to maximize again if you had it maximized. And double check, depending on your meeting settings, it might mute you again when you move between rooms. So I already had myself muted here, but if your meeting setting is mute on join, I believe it mutes you each time you move to a new breakout room, which can be kind of annoying. So I am now in a breakout room with Elmo and Lego Guy. I can't see or hear Abby and Cookie Monster anymore. Again, you'll see if I go to my participants window, now that shows Elmo and Lego Guy. And if I open the chat, this is where it starts to get really confusing. So it looks like my chat and things I have said to everyone moved with me in my chat window. But for example, if I go look on Elmo's computer, who was in this separate breakout room when I typed this from the other breakout room earlier, this does not appear on Elmo's computer. So the chat can definitely get kind of confusing in terms of who sees what. So be really careful when relying on this if you think all students are going to see it. Again, that broadcast to all is the surefire way to make sure all students see your message. So hopefully you understand how to set up and move between these rooms now. Again, I would recommend hopping around to check in on your students and see what they're doing, or making sure you have some sort of deliverable so they can prove that they actually did some work during these breakout rooms. If at any point you are ready to leave and just go back to the main room, so you don't want to be spying on any of the students and you just want to let them have their discussions without you, you can always hit the leave room button, and you can either end the meeting for everyone, leave the meeting, or just leave the breakout room. So be careful that you don't accidentally end the entire class. Leave the breakout room. Again, you'll get a bit of a lag as you return to the main session. And you can see now I am back to just me in the main session, so I can let the students finish all their work. Again, there's Zoom reminding me that I'm muted every time I move around. And when you're ready to end all the breakout rooms and call students back to the main session, again, hopefully you set that setting so it'll give a 60-second countdown that will display on all the students' screens, so you don't just cut them off mid-sentence, but you click the breakout rooms button, hit close all rooms. It gives you this little notification that all participants have been given a 60-second countdown. They can leave earlier and come back if they want to. Otherwise, they will all see this similar countdown, and then once that reaches 0, it will cut them off and bring them back to the main room. So here we all are back in the main room. If I wanted to relaunch the breakout rooms, I can just click the breakout rooms button again, and I can open the same rooms I had previously, or I can recreate them again, either automatically or manually using the same process if you wanted to shuffle the rooms around. For example, if you're doing multiple activities throughout the lecture and you want students working in different groups. So, as always, I hope you found this helpful. I also kind of hope we will reach a point where we have fully returned to in-person learning and I no longer need to keep making these tutorials, but while a bunch of people are out there teaching online, I want to keep making these to help people out. So if you have a...
Okay, so now a couple of things I want to mention. He talked about, before I break you off into your breakout rooms, so that you can experience what your students will experience if you decide to do your labs, not just demo and you answering questions together by using the screen share. Maybe you want to do 15-minute intervals, or maybe in breakout rooms, or bringing them back, putting them back, bringing them back, putting them back, or maybe you just want to do a big lab and letting them work together on their lab manuals and then bringing them back. However that may be, you notice that we talked about the stop video. In that stop video, sometimes if they're lagging, you may or may not know that, they can use that stop video and do like most of you are doing, and it helps with the bandwidth. It helps their lag so they can still participate. But most of the times with your kids, especially the younger and high school, college is not so much of a big thing, but we really probably, in my opinion, which is everybody's got them, I think it'd be good to make sure that they don't have their stop video on, that they're actually, you can see these students. So that way when you go from break room to break room, you can see what they're doing. And he is right. More times than not that I have done the breakout rooms, they're all working. A lot of times there's a grade associated with the lab, and therefore they want to work together. This is for their grade, and they see this as an opportunity. So very seldom have I gone from breakout room to breakout room, and I've seen my students actually not working. But I can't say that's not 100% of the time. Sometimes I will go visit and I'll see that they're not working. And again, you as teachers, you're going from lab desk to lab desk. You also know that happens in real world as well as in the virtual world. And I know you guys know how to handle that situation. So let's go into breakout rooms. I'm going to assign you automatically. And the great thing about assigning automatically, there's good things about manually. And again, he talked about when you're setting up meetings, depending upon your Zoom package, you can pre-do these so it doesn't take all your time assigning them manually. You can pre-manually assign them. But if it's not a big deal, it doesn't take the computer long. If you set that to 2 members per group, it'll automatically assign the groups, even if there's an odd number, it'll shuffle them up. 3 members, 4 members. So it automatically does that. It's going to automatically shuffle you. So I am going to hit the breakout room just like he did. And then I'm going to do automatically. Remember, he had 2 buttons that said automatic or manual. I'm doing automatic. I'm going to put you 2 members each per room. Now, let's see, assign 12% into room, 2 rooms. I'm going to do, let's see, I want 2 rooms. How many rooms do I want? Let's see. Let's do 3 participants per room. And I'll give it an even number. So I want 3 participants per room. That'll give me about 4 rooms. It automatically does it myself. So I'm going to click create room. Now I'm going to go to my options. Right now my rooms are created just like he had Elmo in them. He had to manually move them, but that's how quick it did it. Mine are already done. I'm going to go into options. I'm going to move you all automatically in. You're not going to have to request. We're going to close automatically. I'll give you 3 minutes. That may be too long, but I want you to play around in that break room. Send me a message. Tell me you need help. Whatever you want to do in that break room, talk to each other, get to know each other. I'm going to ask for a countdown. Let's do 2. Let's do 2 minutes. We got 55. We'll do 2 minutes. And that's going to tell you after 1 minute, you're going to get a countdown timer. So I'm going to send you all now. This is what it's going to feel like as your students. You have divided them up into their lab groups. I have a pretend lab, but of course you don't have to do that. But you can kind of pretend that you would be doing that lab with your partner. And I'll kind of go to a couple of rooms and see. I might even make it all 4, just popping in and out to show you what that looks like. So here we go. I'm going to open rooms and I'll see you in a minute. Hopefully I'll pop in just a sec. Okay. Okay, let's see. Breakout room 3 and 1 are still in their rooms. We have 18 seconds. There's 7 seconds. Okay, that should bring them all back. Okay, welcome back. Now I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to send you back just to show you how I can go back and forth. I am not going to recreate a room. I'm just going to send you back in the same rooms that you were, and I'm going to broadcast a message, and then I'm going to send you back. So I'm going to open all the rooms, but I'm not going to, so are you ready? You may feel a little whiplashy, but here we go. Two, one, everyone's coming back. Okay, that concludes our training today. I was about a minute or two over. I apologize for that. Are there any questions? I encourage you to play with Zoom. This is just the tip of the iceberg of things that you can accomplish with Zoom. And Zoom is fun, it's great, and it does give your students that flexibility of virtually changing locations, and it enables them to be able to withstand sitting for longer periods of time, and enables them to work together in smaller groups in your labs. Also, the screen share enables you to screen share tutorials, interactive websites. It enables you to screen share videos. So it opens up kind of a world for you for your labs. And I really hope that it helped. I hope that it excited you, made you less afraid. And again, I encourage you to play. You can't break Zoom. You can't break it. Just play. And if you have any questions, Miss Penny has my email. I'll be happy to answer those. I will also give Nikki those 2 websites that elaborate a little more about something we did today.
Thank you very much, Amanda. This has been a great session. Thank you everyone for participating. And this session has been recorded. So if you want to go back and watch something again, it will be available to you, and we'll provide that link. Also, we have some more professional development activities coming up. I'll send that information out to you. And thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.